The GBI is investigating a domestic dispute that turned deadly in Douglasville. So this happened last night. We know the name of the victim has been identified as 56-year-old Sabrina Walker. 11 Alive was on the scene on Little Brook Way. Douglasville police said that they responded to a home around 9:30 last night where they found Walker shot dead in the yard.
Imagine this. You're turning 57 tomorrow. Your new business opens in the morning. Your daughters are proud. Your community's ready to celebrate. You go to bed tonight knowing everything you worked for is about to pay off. Now imagine you never wake up to see it, because the man sleeping next to you won't let you. Sabrina Walker's story should have been about success. Instead, it's about survival. And girl, she didn't survive. Late night, October 4th, 2025, Douglasville, Georgia. What started as an argument inside a home on Little Brook Way ended with a woman dead on the ground, her husband shot by police, and a community asking the same question we always ask: how did it get this far? You already know what we do at Shadow Crimes TV. We break stuff down, so let's get right into it. Sabrina Walker was 56 years old, a mother, a businesswoman, a woman with plans, and by the time that night was over, all those plans died with her. Let me tell you who Sabrina was, because her story matters beyond how it ended. Sabrina wasn't just getting by, she was building something. The woman owned Groomsmen Atlanta Barbershop and had been working toward opening a brand new salon in downtown Douglasville. Not next month, not next year. The very next day, October 5th, was supposed to be her grand opening. And it wasn't just business on her mind. That same weekend, her birthday. Sabrina was turning 57. She had 4 daughters who loved her. She had clients who'd become friends. She had a community that respected the work she put in. Her daughters describe her as someone who believed in hard work, independence, and showing up for the people around her. She was the kind of woman who didn't wait for opportunities. She created them. So picture this. You're about to turn 57. Your new salon opens tomorrow. Your daughters are excited. Your clients are ready to support you. Life is finally clicking into place. Now imagine none of that matters because of what's waiting for you at home. Here's where things get complicated. Sabrina had been married to Volanta Lawan Walker for less than a year, 51 years old. Neighbors said they seemed like a quiet couple, private, the kind of people who didn't draw attention to themselves. But girl, we all know that quiet doesn't mean safe, and private can hide a whole lot of pain. October 4th, late evening, something went wrong inside that house on Little Brook Way. The details of what sparked the argument? Investigators haven't said. Maybe it was something small that escalated. Maybe it had been building for a while. What we do know is this. Whatever was happening inside that house, Sabrina felt she needed to get out. She ran, and he chased her with a gun. Let that sit for a second. Your own husband, the man you married less than a year ago, chasing you out of your own home, armed. It's around 9:30 at night. Neighbors in this quiet Douglasville neighborhood are winding down their evening. Then gunshots. Multiple shots fired right there in the front yard. When police arrived on the scene, here's what they found. Sabrina Walker, 56 years old, lying dead on the ground. And Volanta Walker, her husband, still standing nearby, still armed. Officers immediately ordered him to drop the weapon. He didn't. According to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Volanta pointed that gun at the officers. That's when one of them fired, striking him. He went down. Officers rendered aid right there on the scene before he was rushed to a local hospital. But Sabrina? There was no saving her. She was already gone. By the time investigators finished processing the scene, marking evidence, collecting shell casings, photographing the yard, it was early morning. The sun was coming up on what was supposed to be Sabrina's birthday. What was supposed to be the day her new salon opened its doors for the first time. Instead, her daughters were planning a funeral.
The GBI is investigating a domestic dispute that turned deadly in Douglasville. So this happened last night. We know the name of the victim has been identified as 56-year-old Sabrina Walker. 11 Alive was on the scene on Little Brook Way. Douglasville police said that they responded to a home around 9:30 last night where they found Walker shot dead in the yard. And we're told that her husband, 51-year-old Valanta Walker, chased her outside and then shot her during an argument. Officers said that Valanta was still armed when they got there on the scene, so they shot him after he refused to drop his weapon. He's in the hospital recovering. No word yet on any charges. And of course, folks, our thoughts and prayers are with the Walker family tonight during this very, very difficult time.
The Georgia Bureau of Investigation took over, which is standard procedure whenever an officer discharges their weapon in Georgia. But this wasn't just an officer-involved shooting they were investigating. This was a homicide, a domestic violence homicide. Sabrina's body was sent to the GBI crime lab for autopsy. Meanwhile, investigators started piecing together what led to that deadly night. Neighbors were in shock. One of them told reporters, make it make sense. You go to bed thinking your neighborhood is safe, and you wake up to crime scene tape and shell casings in someone's front yard. So here's where we are. The GBI is now handling two separate investigations. One, the homicide of Sabrina Walker. Two, the officer-involved shooting of Valanta Walker. Both happening at the same scene, both connected to the same tragic night. But let's talk about what investigators were trying to figure out. What pushed this argument to the point of murder? What was the breaking point? Family members and friends were just as confused as everyone else. They told reporters they never saw clear warning signs. Nothing that screamed, "This is about to turn deadly." And that's the thing about domestic violence that people don't always understand. It doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes the danger is hidden until it explodes. Authorities confirmed that the shooting started with a domestic dispute, but they haven't released specific details about what the argument was about. Was it jealousy? Control? Money? We don't know. What we do know is that whatever it was, it cost Sabrina her life. Now let's talk about Valanta Lawan Walker. 51 years old, the man accused of killing his wife. So far, no official news outlet or public record search has turned up any prior criminal history for him. No arrests, no restraining orders, nothing on paper that would have warned anyone this was coming. Investigators haven't disclosed whether Sabrina and Valanta had any children together. What we do know is that Sabrina's 4 daughters were from previous relationships. Those daughters are now left without their mother, without answers, without justice, at least not yet. As Valanta remained in the hospital recovering from the gunshot wound, investigators continued their work, processing evidence, interviewing witnesses, building a timeline. The GBI promised to release updates as the case developed. But for Sabrina's family, waiting for answers while planning a funeral is a pain nobody should have to carry. Here's where things stand legally. Valanta Walker was hospitalized after being shot by police. As of the latest reports, no formal charges have been filed yet. But let's be clear, that doesn't mean charges won't come. It just means the investigation has to be completed first. The GBI's findings will eventually be turned over to the Douglas County District Attorney's Office. That's when prosecutors will decide what charges to bring. Given the circumstances, a woman shot multiple times in her own front yard, witnesses, physical evidence. It's hard to imagine this case not moving forward, but for now, Valanta remains under medical care. And Sabrina's family, They're left in limbo, waiting for the system to do what it's supposed to do. We've seen this before, haven't we? A woman killed by someone who was supposed to love her. A family forced to navigate grief while waiting for the legal system to catch up. It's exhausting, it's infuriating, and it happens far too often. Let me tell you something. This case doesn't have dramatic courtroom moments yet. No trial, no testimony, no verdict. This is still in the early stages. But what we do have is a community that witnessed the aftermath. Neighbors who heard the shots, daughters who lost their mother, and a woman who will never get to see her dream fully realized. Moving on to what happened the next day, because this part right here, this is powerful. October 5th, the day Sabrina was supposed to celebrate her 57th birthday. The day her new salon was supposed to open, her daughters had a choice to make. Do they cancel everything? Do they shut it down and grieve in private? No. They opened that salon. They said they wanted to honor their mother's dream rather than let her story end with tragedy. And honestly, that takes strength most of us can't even imagine. Less than 24 hours after their mother was killed, Sabrina's daughters held the grand opening of Groomsmen Atlanta Barbershop. One of them said, "My mama put up blood, sweat, and tears into this business." Sabrina had the shop on Fairburn Road since 2009 and wanted to hold a grand opening after revamping it. Friends and loyal customers came out to show their support for the business and her daughters. One supporter said she was a loving person. She showed up for other people, so they're gonna show up for her. One of Sabrina's daughters, Anisha, was at the home when it happened. She told reporters, "I couldn't do anything. He probably could have took me with her. So as much as I wanted to save my mama, I'm happy I'm still here with all my sisters." Girl, to push through that kind of pain and still show up, that's love. Supporters filled the shop. People from the community came to offer condolences, prayers, and support. They came to celebrate Sabrina's life, not just mourn her death. They came to remind her daughters that their mother mattered, that her work mattered, that her dream wasn't going to die just because she did. One of Sabrina's daughters told reporters she would be taking over the business for her mother. Think about that. Your mom is murdered the night before her grand opening, and you still walk into that salon, turn on the lights, and carry on her legacy. Period. That's not just resilience. That's a testimony to who Sabrina was as a mother. She raised daughters who knew how to honor her even in the midst of unimaginable grief. Let's zoom out for a second and talk about what this case represents beyond just one family's tragedy. Douglasville is a community like so many others. Quiet streets, working families, people trying to build better lives for themselves. And then something like this happens and it shatters that sense of safety. One neighbor said it best when he talked about how it scared his daughter, because that's what violence does, especially in places where people don't expect it. It makes you question everything. It makes you wonder who else might be hiding pain behind closed doors. But here's the other side of that. When tragedy strikes, communities have a choice. They can turn away or they can show up. Douglasville showed up. They showed up to that salon opening. They showed up for Sabrina's daughters. They made sure that even in death, Sabrina Walker was not forgotten, and that matters, because domestic violence thrives in silence. It thrives when we look the other way, when we say that's not my business, or I didn't want to get involved. But when a community says, we see you, we remember you, we won't let your story be erased, that's when change starts to happen. Sabrina Walker's story is not unique. Women are killed by intimate partners every single day in this country, but every single story deserves to be told. Every single name deserves to be remembered. So now we need to talk about what cases like this reveal about domestic violence in America, because Sabrina's story isn't happening in a vacuum. It's part of a larger pattern that we need to address every day in this country. More than 3 women are murdered by their intimate partners. That's not an exaggeration. That's data from the Centers for Disease Control. 3 women every single day. Mothers, daughters, sisters, friends. Women with dreams just like Sabrina had, and here's what makes domestic violence so dangerous. It often escalates without warning, or rather, the warning signs are there, but they're easy to miss if you don't know what to look for. A partner who's overly controlling, someone who isolates you from friends and family, jealousy that gets dismissed as love, anger that comes out of nowhere. But even when there are no obvious red flags, violence can still happen. That's what makes Sabrina's case so haunting. By all accounts, neighbors didn't see trouble. Friends didn't notice anything alarming. And then one night, everything exploded. That's the reality of domestic violence. It doesn't always give you time to prepare. It doesn't always give you time to escape. Let's bring this back to where things currently stand with the investigation. The GBI continues to work on both aspects of this case. They're building the homicide case against Sabrina Walker while also reviewing the officer-involved shooting. Every piece of evidence matters. Every witness statement, every detail from that night. Sabrina's autopsy has been completed at the GBI Crime Lab. The findings from that autopsy, along with all other evidence collected, will be handed over to the Douglas County District Attorney's Office. That's when prosecutors will make their move. Sabrina Walker remains hospitalized. His condition hasn't been publicly disclosed, but he's under medical supervision and presumably under guard. Once he's medically cleared, that's when we'll likely see formal charges filed. Murder charges. Because let's be honest about what happened here. A man chased his wife out of their home and shot her multiple times in their front yard. That's not manslaughter. That's not an accident. That's murder. The timeline for when charges will be filed, that depends on how quickly the investigation wraps up and how soon Sabrina is medically cleared. But make no mistake, the wheels of justice are turning. Slowly maybe, but they're turning. Sabrina Walker was a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, a woman who saw an opportunity and went after it. She didn't just dream about owning a salon, she made it happen. She didn't just talk about success, she worked for it. And when she died, her daughters didn't let that work die with her. That salon in downtown Douglasville? It's open, it's running, it's serving clients. Sabrina's dream is alive because her daughters refuse to let violence have the final word. One of her daughters is now running the business, learning the ropes, carrying on her mother's legacy. And every client who walks through that door, every person who gets their hair done in that chair, is part of keeping Sabrina's memory alive. That's powerful. That's resistance. That's love in action. But here's what we can't forget. Sabrina shouldn't have to be remembered as a victim. She should have been here to run her own salon. She should have celebrated her 57th birthday surrounded by family. She should have had years ahead of her to build her business, watch her daughters grow, and enjoy the life she worked so hard to create. Violence took that from her, and we have to name that. We have to say it out loud. Sabrina Walker was robbed. Her daughters were robbed. Her community was robbed. But Sabrina's daughters showed us something else too. They showed us that even in the face of unimaginable loss, love persists, legacy persists, and the work we start doesn't have to die with us. That salon is still open. Sabrina's name is still being spoken. Her story is still being told. And as long as we keep telling it, as long as we keep saying her name, as long as we keep demanding justice for women like her, she's not forgotten. Rest in power. Sabrina Walker, your dream lives on. Hit that subscribe button for Shadowed Crimes TV. We're not just telling stories here, We're honoring lives. We're demanding justice. We're making sure women like Sabrina Walker are never forgotten. Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you know someone who might be in danger, don't stay silent. We'll be back with another story, another name, another life that mattered.